All right, so welcome back to the Stay Doubted podcast. We're extremely excited for this one. This guest right here has been somebody that we've gotten to know really, really well across our J1S ecosystem, partially because he's on our J1S talent roster. But more than just that, he really represents somebody that we are passionate about in his direction and things that he's trying to go. You'll probably recognize him from being on two different network shows on ABC and E, from the Bachelorette. He was on Bachelorette and Paradise, as well as the Bradshaw Bunch. Welcome to the Stay Doubted podcast, Connor Saeli. What's up, man?
Woo! What up, Mike Jones? How you doing, Mike?
Man, it's been too long. I appreciate you coming on here and coming down to my level for a second and joining the Stay Doubted podcast.
Hey, no. Hey, I appreciate the intro, but at the end of the day, I'm just a guy trying to find love still, So I'm like everyone else, but I appreciate all the love and the hype.
Well, I think you're a lot more than that. And with that, I think obviously people know you from being on two different network shows at this point, and you've done a lot in the public eye. But give me the rundown a little bit for the people that probably don't know, everything about you from your childhood and things. Give us the 30-second to where you are today. I know that's a long journey, right? But give it to us that way side of things. The people that have only seen you on ABC or E, give us kind of your backdrop.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Michigan, youngest of four kids, and ended up going way far away from home for college down to SMU in Dallas. So that was, for me, that was an awesome experience, kind of separating from everyone I knew in high school and just getting a new group of friends and, just a very new and different experience for me. But going through college, I studied finance and went into like an investment banking type role after investing into companies. And after a couple of years of doing that, I kind of just realized that it wasn't for me and I wasn't going to be doing that 5 years from that point. I'm a big believer in there's something you want to do in life, go do it now, don't wait. There's never going to be a good time to do something. And to me, the best experience is just going and doing it. And so, I'd always wanted to start my own business and just reach a certain point. I was so unhappy with what I was doing. And I walked into work one day and it was kind of just like, what, screw it. I'm just going to go for it and start my own thing. And I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do, but I felt like I needed to get out of that environment and, to kind of creatively think of ideas and think through problems in my life that I could solve and turn into a business. And so I quit, and it just so happened that a week later, I got a phone call from ABC. There's a producer from The Bachelor, and someone had nominated me to be on the show without telling me.
Do you know who that person is?
Yeah, it was a friend from home.
Okay.
It was always a joke when we were younger. If I was 24 or 25 and single, they'd nominate me. And actually happened. And it's crazy, like all those things that happened. And I think that was 2019, going on The Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise. And then flash forward when those were done, started my own business once I had time to. And then, 2020 was kind of a blur. Don't really know what I did for the last year, but
for everybody, nobody remembers 2020.
Yeah, for everyone. But was on the live show of The Bachelor, which was really cool, and then was on the E show, the Bradshaw Bunch as well, and then just continued running my business and kind of expanding into some other projects as well. So it's been a pretty crazy 3 years from obviously quite a career shift from working in investment banking, like militant job, 9-to-5 job, 9 to midnight job, to be honest, but to kind of like running your own schedule every day and doing that. But as stressful as it is at times, I kind of love it. So
yeah, no doubt. I mean, like and we're going to touch on that. And if we just go back for a second to talk about that time, like you go to SMU, which if you're not familiar, that is not a slouch of a school. Like that is a very prestigious school in terms of its business size, law degrees. Like it is a very, very prestigious school. You go to SMU and you did well, but then you go and you're an analyst, right, at Goldman Sachs?
Yeah.
So walk me through, like, where did this knack for business and is that from your family, or is that just that way, or walk me through that?
Yeah. So I think the finance side in particular comes from my dad and my oldest brother. Them are super successful in business, particularly finance and investment. And that was always super interesting to me growing up. So when I was looking at going to colleges, SMU is a very natural fit. And I feel like it's kind of a hidden gem because it's a very good business school. And being in Dallas, you have so many opportunities there. And Texas is such a booming economy that there are a lot of great jobs, particularly in finance after school. But it's funny as I've started kind of reflecting on, business and how I've like ended up where I'm at now. I've realized that throughout my life, there's like various things when I was younger that I picked up on. It's like, okay, I kind of get the entrepreneurial track a little bit. And so when I was really young, I remember I went to the candy store and I bought all this candy and I put it out on a platter in my house and I tried to sell it to my family. I put like, $5 for a candy bar. So I was upcharging my family members for candy. And then my dad, it was really cool at like a young age. He kind of wanted to like teach me business a little bit. And so we opened an eBay store and
Really?
drive to the North Face outlet store. It was about an hour from our house. And you could buy backpacks there that were like 60% discounted. And for some reason, people would pay full price for them on eBay. So you make this huge margin, but it was like a very cool kind of entrepreneurial thing that he kind of taught me when I was young. And we actually ended up making a lot of money doing that because you can literally sell anything.
Which like that trend is now like because of TikTok and social media. Obviously, when you were doing this, that didn't exist, but now you see it with all the time, like where you go into like Costco and then you sell it on Amazon or one of those things. That's like become a trend, but you're doing it like years prior.
No, it's crazy how big the trend that is. I wish I would have gotten more into it. It could have been an multi-million-dollar business, but for me, I think I was like in middle school at the time, so I was maybe like 12 or 13 to be making like 10 grand selling North Face backpacks on eBay was sweet. And then we ended up investing all that money into the stock market. So yeah, I'm very appreciative of my dad for kind of like teaching that stuff to me because it was just so cool from a young age being exposed to it. And I feel like that's where a lot of interest for those things came from at a really young age.
Yeah, you like when you're in kind of your shoes, and I do that too. I try to think back on it. My father was probably that same figure for me. Where did this business world come from? And for me, it was similar as you were mentioning. Is just like I always think about how did I become such a good at speaking in meetings and speaking in corporate. I've always had that natural ability, but I always remember I was in the back of a car and my dad would be on conference meetings all the time, and I'd just be listening over the car speaker to my dad and how he navigated conversations and spoke. And while that seems super small, like I really do believe that got me up to speed on that side of things. And then I also, like, similar to you, like I remember I would always save all my birthday money. I never spend it, and then I would literally loan my money to my sister and brother and charge them interest. And if they didn't pay my interest, I like would send them to collections, which was just a form of like me going to my mom and dad and being like, "Hey, they didn't pay back their loan, so I need my money." So I think to try and bring value to the audience, one thing that I think most people probably don't realize is that there's two stories there. Is one, like just your natural environment. If you try to just absorb things that are going on around you, like you can learn a lot. And then the second one is just, I think entrepreneurship at this point has become such a cool and sexy, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to control my own schedule. But as you mentioned, like you really should look back and say, have I always had these characteristics, or am I just doing it because I think entrepreneurship is sexy today? Or do I truly have the natural ability and natural characteristics to win? Because it is a very lonely and scary part that people don't actually talk about.
Oh yeah, no, I mean you're so right. When you hear people talk about being an entrepreneur, you only hear the success stories and the good stuff. You don't hear about the starting up part or the loneliness, like you mentioned, and all of that stuff. I mean, it's a grind, and that stuff I didn't realize either. So I mean, it's definitely like a very good character building thing, starting your own business, but you really have to be passionate about it and want to do it in order
Yeah.
for it to be successful and actually grow.
It's just not something that you can just pick up and be like, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur today. I've never tried to run a business, or I've never really been on my own, and I'm just going to be successful at it. There's some really hard aspects to it. And that's one thing I wanted to ask you about was just, we talked about your network show. We talked about you going through things. But one thing that I think is a loss of identity that can happen a little bit because it is such a lonely road. You went from a kid coming up from you go far away from home. You're a competitive swimmer, so you can define yourself a little bit by being an athlete. You can define yourself by being a student. Well, you get out into the real world, and now you say, hey, I'm at Goldman Sachs. I'm doing well. I can define myself as an analyst. But then you walk out from that. Then you get thrown into fame, and now you're like, I can define myself as somebody that's been on a network television show. Has there been moments in your life that you've gone through in these last 3 years, considering such a overhaul to your self-identity almost in terms of how people perceive you and who you are? Have you struggled at all with that? Like trying to figure out who am I?
Oh, 100. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say like the biggest struggle for me was when I was working at Goldman in finance, because growing up and going through college is, if I get to this point in my life and I work there, which Goldman was like the gold standard, place to work.
Right.
Like, if I get, I'm going to be happy and like just work there for the rest of my life, have, a great life, great family, retire, wealthy, all that. And when I got there, I was like, whoa, this isn't how I'm supposed to feel. I'm not excited about coming in here. I'm not like pumped about this job. And I tried so hard for a while to make it happen, and it just wasn't there. And at a certain point, I kind of checked out, which I feel bad about because it definitely like, my work went down. But I think especially like going on TV and leaving Goldman and all that, it was me trying to like find that passion and find, what motivates me, what gets me going. And I to be honest, I'm still trying to find that. I think I'm on the right path towards doing it. And, everything I do more intentionally because I feel like I'm, on that right path of actually figuring it out. And I think, for some people that takes a whole lifetime to figure that out. Some people, they find that out when they're 10 years old, so everyone's path is differently, but there's definitely been a lot of struggles, like finding, who is Connor, right? And I think being on TV, especially, you're kind of bucketed into this personality that the show portrays you as. And for a while, you almost try and like fit that bill. So like, on ABC and The Bachelor, they portray me as a very quiet, kind of reserved person, which I am. But there's a lot of other sides to me that people didn't see. And, for a while, I felt like I just played into that quiet, kind of reserved guy. Didn't really show my personality much on social media or anything. But, after a while, it's like, well, screw it. I mean, that's not me. Like, why am I fitting into this thing that, a TV show wants to portray me as? I'm going to show people who I really am. So that's why you see me doing stupid stuff on TikTok, funny dances. I'm a funny guy.
The whole you got the whole like weird thing going on the TikTok. Like it's just like the awkward dance.
Yeah, but you got to own it, like you got to laugh at yourself and all that. And that's more so who I am. So I think that's one thing I like social media for is I'm able to kind of show my personality a little bit more and show people more sides to me.
Yeah, your social media, if used properly, can get the control back in your hands. Like you control the narrative of who Connor Saeli is.
Right.
And
unfortunately, I think a lot of times people play into that narrative more than like take it back. You know what I mean?
That's
like
an awesome
people don't
point.
always, they don't always portray like the true reality of their life. So that's something that I feel like I take to heart a little bit and try and show people more of like what I'm actually doing, Yeah.
And I think like to step back, because I think that's an amazing point that brings a ton of value that you just mentioned is like, you can use social two ways. You can either lean into the narrative that you've been told by your definition of whoever you say you are that you should be, or you can control your own narrative through it. Right. And I think as you mentioned, like, too many people use social media and say, hey, I'm an athlete or I'm this or I'm an entrepreneur. I'm these things. So I have to post. I have to act. I have to say it this way instead of saying, hey, no, I control these channels. No one is the other ones that control it. and I can control and say what I want to say and be my version of an entrepreneur. So that has to be tough coming off a show where they legitimately control everything you say.
Yeah, no, it's super, super hard. And one other thing I do want to say about like finding that identity through, the last 3 years of my life and like finding what I want to do. And the reason I like this so much, Stay Doubted.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. And
Stay Doubted, baby. Shameless plug by Connor there. Appreciate it.
But I think the tagline for your foundation is doubt me, watch me, right?
Yep.
And I love that because that is like exactly what motivates me. And I've seen that in a lot of areas of my life. And so one in particular was when I was a freshman in college, I was dumb and I signed up to run a marathon with 3 of my friends. Didn't train for it, but I was like, you know what? I can do this. I went home for Thanksgiving and I told my family, and no knock to them at all, but they didn't believe me. They were like, there's no way. Why are you going to do that? And all my friends were like, Connor, there's no way you're going to finish this. And once they said that, I was like, okay, watch me. I'm going to do this. And so it was the worst experience of my life, but I finished that race and I wasn't going to stop until I finished it. And it's the same thing with like, quitting Goldman or going on the Bachelorette or starting my own business, or I ran the marathon again a little over a year ago. It's like, I love doing those things because I love when people doubt me, because it like lights a little fire beneath me. And I feel like that just motivates me. And I've just seen that play out in so many different areas of my life. And now it's almost like I try and create that doubt. Because I know, like, so funny, like the other day, I was like, you know what, I need to like a little fire beneath me. And so I had my own business and I'm working on a couple other like business projects now, but I was like, I'm going to apply for this job that I know I'm not going to get because I'm not qualified for it, but I just want to get rejected. So I can be like, all right, screw these people. I'm going to prove you wrong now. And I'm going to go hopefully buy your company one day. So I did it. I got rejected. And now I'm fired up. I'm like, you know what? I didn't want that job in the first place, but I'm going to be super successful and buy this company hopefully someday. And then I'm going to talk to that hiring manager and be like, well, look at me now.
I'm now your boss.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the kind of stuff that I love. And I feel like it helps me like define myself more because it helps me push towards those goals that I'm working at.
No, I love hearing somebody else that embraces that mantra and that kind of attitude towards life, because to give context to the listeners who don't know, my first business that I started was called Doubt Me, Watch Me. It's now transitioned into a foundation that's more philanthropic based than anything, which we're really, really proud of, and we don't speak enough on it, but that's called Doubt Me, Watch Me. The J1S, which is the second one, which is now the agency and communication media form of things, our mantra is Stay Doubted, which was just kind of an expansion from the Doubt Me, Watch Me side of things. And the full length of it is Stay Doubted with humility and grace towards those that doubt, which I think you bring up. Like, you don't hate your parents for them doubting you to do that marathon, right? You understand, like, you have the ability to say, like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be the one signing up for this marathon. And, like, I understand and I have the ability to say that, and I also have the grace for why you do it. But, like, that is not going to stop me from accomplishing it, right? And I think it's amazing that you talk about your drive and the willingness and effort to find rejection, right? Like in the art, that's one thing that I think is really cool that you brought up, is just like sometimes you need rejection in life. Failure is a good thing, or it doesn't drive you to continue to find success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people are so scared of seeking out failure and discomfort, I would say, but that's when you grow. You don't grow from winning every day. If you win all the time, you get complacent and you stop growing. I think there's very few people that constantly win, like a Tom Brady maybe, but he loses every once in a while and he grows from those losses. And he was someone too that was always doubted going through college and going into the NFL, which I think is a very cool story. So I'm sure that lit a fire beneath him. But I like seek that discomfort and that failure because I feel like that will lead me to the ultimate success.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing that you brought that up and that you're continuing to do it. You briefly mentioned it, so I'm gonna take that little bridge you gave me. You had sale wellness. You still have that. You've sold some businesses. You've started your own. Obviously, we're very connected to kind of everything that you have going on in some parts of this business journey. Talk me through a little bit of like this current landscape that you're in. You're in Austin. You're with Mike Johnson from the show. Kind of give me where you're at today and kind of what you're working on.
Yeah, there's a lot of different projects. To me, so I think I do very well when I'm focused on like 2 or 3 things.
Yep.
And right now I have like 15 different projects going on. So it's always very stressful. And I feel like the last year I've always said, I want to consolidate my life back into those 2 or 3 things and just go all in with it. And I've done that. And then all of a sudden you get 5 more projects. So right now the main ones, obviously it's great living with Mike. It's been awesome, being down here with him. And I feel like living with someone who has a similar mindset, that kind of like entrepreneurial mindset. Obviously he's familiar with all the social media stuff, is great because he gets it,
Yep.
And I think it's very important to surround yourself with people that push you and help you grow. And that's something that, was kind of missing for me a little bit throughout the last few years. So it's nice to have that now. I feel like I've already seen dividends paying off with some business projects I've been working on. So, obviously doing social media stuff and, working on a lot of things with you guys is always exciting. We've done some great things. And
Appreciate it.
Finish off 2020 on a strong note, which is great. 2021 is even better. But so Sale Wellness, I actually just sold that like right before Christmas. So that's super exciting. Kind of a new thing.
No big deal or anything. Just starts a company and sells it and acts like it's just, oh yeah, I sold that. I think that was before Christmas. No big deal.
Well, I'm all for like celebrating successes and everything, but for me, it's like, all right, we sold it, on to the next big thing, So I'm excited for these new projects I'm working on. We're working on a hydration drink actually, which is super exciting. So we tried the first round of samples on that last Friday. Didn't taste very good. So back to the taste drawing board on that one. But
you first try. Notice?
Yeah, the very first sample. So not worried about it, but it was interesting taste. Let's see. Mike and I are trying to flip a house actually down here.
Okay.
So that's a new one that just kind of came up. I'm working on potentially investing in this new clothing brand, which is exciting and cool. And then the glamping stuff that kind of talked to you all about for a while. Yep. That's kind of still in the cards as well. So a few different like business projects there, and then I've always been super interested in investing and all of that. So
makes sense with Goldman Sachs on your resume.
Yeah. The stock market's been pretty fascinating lately. It's very fascinating today. With I don't know if you've been watching GameStop, but it's up 80% right now.
Okay, so now I have somewhat got into this. I really should dive in before I even make a comment on this, but is that truly being driven by like Reddit users? That's what I've heard. Like it's being gamified a little bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a revolt between Reddit and the giant hedge funds. It's pretty fascinating. I got in a little bit on it. I'm excited about it. I think it's,
you got in before the 80% up?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So I don't know. It's just fascinating. I think nowadays, because of the internet and TikTok and all these social media platforms, there's so much information out there and it's readily available to everyone. So like historically, hedge funds and these giant institutions had access to this stuff, whereas other people didn't, and they were able to constantly win. But now there isn't that divide anymore. So, you could see a company like GameStop where this hedge fund thought they were going to win big on it. They're getting completely screwed over, and they had to get bailed out yesterday, actually, with like $3 billion because of it.
Because they're shorting the stocks. And
they like overly shorted it. So I fully don't understand all of it, to be honest, but I'm just along for the ride. Why not? Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to put the general counsel is going to want us to put an asterisk here. We're not giving you any sort of investing advice on this right now. But by all means, we're going to still talk about it for a second. Because we're going to talk about this. I think what you brought up is like the margin, and I had a segment on this from like when I was. I'll have to send you this. I say this when I'm like this is 2016, so I'm really young. And there's this video I put out. It's like one of my first videos I ever put out where I talk about the margin of success has been shrunk. Because one thing I think too many people think is that I got the short stick. I didn't get born into wealth. I didn't get born into a situation, and I cannot succeed now. And with an iPhone, you can pretty much do anything anybody else does. So the difference between you launching and selling your business and sitting there in your living room unhappy and unpassionate is that because you have the same tool they have. Like you can literally reach anybody in the world the same way somebody born with $1 million in their pocket can. So I think too many people think that they're born into, hey, poverty, I can never get out. Yes, and if you can't get an iPhone, there's a library that has a computer. Like the internet has like democratized this ability to become whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, no, you're so right. And I'm smiling because it's up 95%.
90. Before this podcast is over, Connor is gonna probably be at like 102% gain today.
So I'm pretty fired up about that. But you're so right. I talk about this with my roommate Mike Johnson a lot. Like we're really into watching YouTube videos, and there's like finance YouTube people that are really interesting to watch. And you can like when we talked about the eBay business before that I started when I was young, there's a thing called drop shipping now, which is essentially a similar kind of business. You're buying something, selling it for more on Amazon or create a Shopify store or something like that. There's so many people on YouTube that will teach you how to do that. It's completely free. And so I can go start a business in the next 2 hours for $50 basically. And so it's like everyone has those, like you have access to so much information now. Really, it's kind of up to you and like your drive and everything to make it happen. I mean, so like a couple of years ago, I wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And so I could go pay for guitar lessons, pay like $100 a lesson and do a bunch of them. That would probably, it'd probably work eventually, but it costs a ton. I just watched like YouTube videos for a few days and I learned how to play a song. It was just like, I mean, it wasn't, I'm no expert, but like if I kept doing it and kept at it for a while, I could probably become pretty good at it. So it's just crazy how much information you have access to. And it really is up to every individual to kind of go and make it happen because it's, it's so readily available.
Yeah. The like that gap between being able to be successful, as you said, like for trading, it was always the hedge funds. They always controlled the capital and things like that. And, for the average consumer trying to learn a guitar, like there's YouTube, there's all of these different platforms that you can learn it on. There is zero excuse for not being able to succeed in some sort of a passion area today. Like you have every tool you possibly can to succeed. It's just pure excuses. Like you have to be finding a new excuse for why you can't do it.
So true. So true.
I get fired up about it because I feel bad because so many people, they just don't go after it. Like you mentioned, like sometimes you just got to go after it. And they let an excuse of like, oh, I don't have the money or I don't have this or I don't have that. Well, it's just like pick your phone up, go to Twitter, go to YouTube, like DM people. Like there's a way to get it done and you're just coming up with excuses.
I feel like if you haven't seen this TV show, I think you would love it, but it's called Undercover Billionaire. And
is it like Undercover Boss?
Similar.
Okay. What?
You haven't seen the show?
I have not seen Undercover Billionaire. I've not seen.
Mike, I'm telling you, you're going to love this show. So they're on season 2 now, but basically they take a billionaire and they like, kind of like change his appearance a little bit, change his name. They put him on a private jet and fly him to some random city in the US. And they give him $100 and a car. He doesn't have access to. Yeah, that's it. He has 90 days to go to this city and create $1 million business, basically. And I'm telling you, it's the coolest thing because it's exactly what you're talking about. This guy basically has nothing, and he goes to the city and he has to make connections, get a job. He has to like flip tires on Craigslist. He just has to hustle basically.
Right.
And he has to like rally people around him and find the right people to create this business. And he ends up, I think the first season, he ends up creating like a business worth $750,000 after 90 days with basically
Jeez.
nothing to start with. And it's just fascinating because it's just so true. It really comes down to hustle and just taking action. And that's why, you know, I don't know if you've ever watched like David Goggins or
Mm-hmm.
anyone like that, but I love him. He, you know, he's very on the extreme end of the spectrum and like
Totally.
how he talks to you, but I think people need that. And his thing is like, you know, a lot of people kind of get this attitude of like, woe is me, you know, you feel bad for yourself, you get down on yourself, and then you don't do anything. But at the end of the day, you just have to take action and go do it. And whether that's starting a business, changing your career, getting healthy, getting fit, making friends, I don't know, whatever it is, like you just got to go do it and find ways to do it. You got to be creative with it.
Yeah,
And I know it's
I
very
got you.
easy for us to like sit here and say that because we've been able to do it. And I know
Yep.
there's people that maybe are listening and being like, well, it's easy for you guys to say that, but it's true. Like you just have to change your mindset and put yourself in a position to succeed. And if you do that, it might not happen right away, but you have to put yourself on the right path to make that happen.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Like that's the issue with everything is like, yeah, we're probably in a position today where people can look at us and say, easy for you to say, look at you, you know, you have a successful agency, you've already sold a business. Both of us have sold businesses prior to this. Easy, right? But I would say to anybody listening, both of us started in the same spot they were in, right? Like that's the reality. I wasn't born into wealth. You were born into a pretty middle class family as well. I mean, those are the realities of it. And just keep in mind that when you look at somebody like Connor and you say, hey, he has it better than me, he used the same tools that you have to make it, right? And still to this day, as you go and do this, like I guarantee you, flipping a home, within reason, you can learn how to flip a home from just being online. Like you can go and learn about real estate and everything that you want to do. It's not like you come with a worldly knowledge of real estate market and how to flip a home. Like I would imagine you're probably trying to learn as you go through the process right now.
Yeah. I don't know a single thing about flipping a house, to be honest, but I think that's the exciting part about it. I mean,
Right.
you know, yes, there's a lot of things that you can learn from YouTube or learn from other people, which I encourage people to do that stuff. But to me, the best learning experience will always just be by doing it.
Going and doing it.
And in whatever it is, it's always just going and doing it. And, you know, you'll probably fail, but you just have to put yourself in a position to get back up after you fail and like take that next step towards succeeding in it.
For sure. And you know, you mentioned one thing and that you are in so many different areas. You know, you have 15 plus projects going on at once, which is awesome. One thing I thought was neat about your situation a little bit is that you've been on almost every part of the perspective spectrum in terms of business, right? You've worked as like a W-2 employee for Goldman Sachs. You've started your own business and being a true entrepreneur and running your own business. You're on the investing side, so you've been on the investor side. You're here at J1S Talent. Obviously, we represent you. You know, shameless plug there. But you know, we help you from a promoting brands perspective and marketing for brands. And you also like are continuing to start new brands. So you have literally seen every possible way that you can kind of interact with a company. Do you think that helps you as you continue to start more in the different ways that you can have a relationship with brands, being somebody that's been in all those different spots?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I would say from starting Sail Wellness, that was, you know, I'm not going to go retire tomorrow. Like it wasn't
Right.
that successful, but it ended on a very good note. And I like that was an incredible learning experience. And so in these new ventures that I'm starting now, I feel so much more confident and knowledgeable about different things. And I think with brands I've been able to interact with now, I feel like I have more of an understanding on where they're coming from on certain things. And to me, it's just super helpful. I think, you know, I would encourage anyone, if you ever want to start a business, if you have any dream to, just go do it,
Yep.
and maybe you'll fail, but the knowledge you'll gain from that will help you so much. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 60 years old and you want to go start your own thing, go do it.
For sure.
There's never a good time to, but I would encourage everyone, especially from a younger age, if you want to go do it now, because you don't want to get to that point where you are older and you have these other obligations that are going to limit your ability to do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's less risk the earlier you do it, but you can always do it at any time. And I love that you
Right.
bring that up because people just go do it. Right. And we should probably remove the word failure because, as you just said, when you fail, you took knowledge out of it, which means it wasn't a failure. You still gained something from it, which will make you more successful in the next journey that you're on.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say, so someone asked me the other day, like, what's like one of your favorite quotes? And I always say this one, it's from Yoda. Do or
From
do not.
Yoda. Here we go. Hold on. Here, this is a quote from Yoda. Go on, Connor.
Quote from Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. And the reason I like that, and it goes back to when I was younger, it was our final swim meet for our summer swim team. And this was like the championship meet. And it was in the warm up, the practice part before the swim meet. And I forget what my coach wanted me to do. I think he wanted me to do like a no breather. And I was 8 years old. And so I get up on the block and he looks at me. He's like, Connor, are you going to do a no breather right now? And I looked at him and I was like, I'll try. And then I like went to go kind of start. He grabs my arm, jerks me back, and he looks at me like dead in the face. He's like, no, you're going to do it. And I was like, okay. And I did it. But that quote like popped up in my life later on. And I feel like it's so true. If you go into something with the mindset of, yeah, I'm going to try and do it, you're setting yourself up to fail 100%. And failure is okay, but you shouldn't set yourself up to fail. You should set yourself up to succeed. So like when I ran the marathon, it wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to try and finish it. I didn't give myself an option to finish it. And I think there's like one of, in some like war a long time ago, one of the generals was like, burn the boats when we get onto the beach or something. Cause he's like, once we're on there, we're not going back. Like we're finishing this thing. And so
that's
like,
a cool,
if you start something, don't give yourself an option or like even think about an option of what you're going to do when it's done. Like, yes, it's good to plan for, extreme scenarios of failure or whatever, but like you shouldn't, if you over plan these things, you're going to set yourself up for failure. And so if you go into something and want to do it, go all in, go 100% in, and the likelihood of you being successful or getting more out of it if you do fail will be so much more.
Yeah, it's almost in the sense of like, if you go into a building, know where the emergency exit is, but then don't move on, don't care about it any longer than that, right? Like if this goes south, I'm going that way, but it's not going south, so I'm going forward. Like, I think you're right, because if you tell yourself that there's an out, you're going to take it. Like we're so, as humans, and even I in this way, I don't want to go towards resistance. It's hard to grow businesses. It's hard to be successful. As humans, we naturally want to go the opposite way. And if I tell myself there is this direction, I'm going to take it. No matter how disciplined I am. That's just how humans were built. I appreciate God for building us that way. But like, so it is a really good thought to like have the mindset that there is no back. There's only forward. As you just said, which is an awesome way of saying it, the boats have been burned. We have to go forward. So, super good advice. And with that, I'll, to wrap this up, I'll give you one. I'm going to give you two questions. Okay. One's a tougher question, which I think I already know how you're going to answer this one. And the second one's more fun. What advice would you give for a young new analyst that's sitting at Goldman Sachs who's not passionate about it any longer? How would you guide that person?
Ooh, is this a tough question?
This is the tough question. The next one's easier.
All right. I mean, there's a lot of advice, but I would say one piece of advice that my boss at Goldman did give me, which I'm appreciative for, is I think he said like every month or every quarter, take a career inventory and write down the things that you like, the things you don't like, and different opportunities that exist out there that you could go pursue instead of what you're doing now. And it's funny because his advice made me ultimately want to quit, but it kind of backfired a little bit. But I would say that is super important to do that, and no matter what job you're doing. But there's some people that work at Goldman as an analyst that, they're happy and excited about doing that. And if that's you, like, stay there and do your thing and work hard and make that happen. But if you have any doubt in your mind or any itch to go do something else or start your own business, my advice for anyone in any career is just go do it. You can sit at that job as long as you want. And every day you're going to say, wow, I wonder what if I go start this now? What if I go do this? What if I go do that? And at some point, that what if is going to turn into a regret. And that is like the last thing I want in my life, is to have a regret. I'm not doing something, and I'm sure everyone else would feel the same way. So I would just say, be a go-getter and get after whatever you want to do in life and make it happen. There's countless tools available to everyone, and it's really up to you kind of how you use those.
Eliminate the what ifs.
Exactly.
Love it. Fun one. This one should be a little bit easier, but no matter how you answer it, I'm going to use it against you here. If you had to switch lives with one of your siblings, are you picking Sarah, Brent, or Tyler?
Ooh. Put me on the spot with that one.
I know how close your family is here, so
yeah. I mean, they're all probably going to be listening to this. So I would say there's different things. I'm going to give.
Oh, no! You can't get it out here. No outs.
All right, let me say this. I would say that I'll give you a specific answer, but let me be a little political for a second. I would say there's different things from each person's life that I would really enjoy.
Okay.
So I would take different things from all their lives, but they all live amazing lives. I look up to all of them. It's been great being the youngest sibling because they've all gone in very different directions too, which is cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like as I was growing up, I was able to kind of take different things from each of them, which has played into who I am. But this is tough. I would say the person that, like, I think Brent, his lifestyle of, he's like a very free-spirited guy, and kind of like goes with the flow, goes on all these crazy adventures and everything like that. To me, I think deep down, that's stuff that I love to do. So I would say that, like, that's probably the one that sticks out the most to me, for sure.
Well, you heard it here first, Sarah and Tyler. I hate to break the news to you. Your life is not fun enough for Connor Saeli. Yeah. I'm messing. I love it, though. I just wanted there's no more fun than watching you try to scheme around that one. All right. Well, I appreciate it, Connor, for coming on the Stay Data podcast and just really kind of getting real with everybody and talking about some of the things that probably people don't know you as much about, and also just kind of the parts in life that we should probably talk more about. We hide these things from people, and we think that our lives are what our social medias may show or things of that nature. But, everyone's going through things, everyone's struggling. And if you are, Connor said it amazingly, just go do it, right? If you have a passion, go do it. Be bigger than just sitting there with the what if, right? Finish those what ifs off. So, Connor, I appreciate it. Congrats again on the business acquisition. That's awesome. You coming with some big things in 2021. I know it. And 15 projects in the works. We're going to close out all 15 of those. So thanks so much, man. And we'll see you a little later.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Woo!
See you, man. That was awesome being able to connect with Connor again. Obviously, he brought some really great advice. I think two things to really take away from what he spoke about is, one, just going after things. As he mentioned, sometimes it's all about the mindset, right? And he brought up this idea where the boats have been burned, right? You get off the water, there's no longer an out, right? The boats are gone. You have to go forward onto mainland. And having that mindset, don't already give yourself an out. If you need to go run a marathon, just go run it. Don't think about, am I not going to make it? I'm going to make it, right? That positive thinking, self-talk, motivating yourself into it, and just going and taking the leap. That is a huge aspect to just getting started. And the second thing is that margin for success has been eliminated. If you have an iPhone today, you have just as much of a chance to be successful as anybody else. It doesn't matter if they've had $1,000, $1 million, what their situation is. An iPhone by itself eliminates your ability to be able to be limited by your current situation. You can be just as successful as anybody else. Use the tool, go after it, learn it yourself, do what you need to do, go on YouTube, look it up, go on Google, you can find it. So those are the two main things I take away from this one. Obviously, there's some really impactful things that we talked about around just self-identity, self-doubt, working through it, the loneliness of entrepreneurship, which we talked a lot about here on the Stay Doubted podcast. We appreciate you listening in. We'll see you on the next one. Stay doubted.